Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Saturday mid-evening-ish episode of Ted's Boo Cellar with me, your most gracious host, and the ever-reliable Big Phil.
Hello, pleasure as always.
The resident purveyor of all things Southampton cheese and sweet-related. So, we're today here for another guest episode, and I'm here again in Phil's flat. We're going to be taking a nice cycling trip around the Isle of Wight tomorrow, but I thought we'd obviously have our usual curry, beer and Ted's Boo Cellar night first. You are providing today's drink of review,
Yes.
and it's one that you have been going on and on and on about for years. I think I even vaguely remember you talking about it during your first couple of appearances on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let you introduce it, because this is your story.
Well, thank you. Yes, basically I'm a fan, as a good friend here, Ted, told us about sweet things, anything sweet, or even slightly bitter, slightly weird. I'm not entirely sure I would describe this as sweet, but I do like old-fashioned soft drinks, and one of the best, of course, is Dandelion Burdock. And as it turns out, there is an alcoholic Dandelion Burdock by the company Hoopers, who are sort of sadly not as well known as I think they deserve to be, because they do other good things as well.
They're certainly not Fentimans.
No, they're not Fentimans, and sadly, Fentimans doesn't do an alcoholic version of this, so there we go. Yeah, so it's just fermented dandelion and thistle root and burdock, basically. All sort of common, herbs that are found, throughout the UK and most of every temperate part of the world, really. But they make a surprisingly nice drink. Obviously historically used for medicinal purposes, but really it just sort of tastes good. Perhaps a bit of an acquired taste. Anyway, it's difficult to find because for some reason that I cannot fathom, it is not very popular.
Well, it is quite old-fashioned. It's not
It is
like,
a bit old.
It's not like, not to slag it off too much, but at the end of the day, it's what is more of like a widely palatable flavour for like a wider range of people? Is it something like that, or would you say it's something like ginger beer?
Yeah, it's ginger beer. I mean, here we go. A sparkling alcoholic beverage made using natural flavours. A unique burst of unmistakable aniseed notes leave a gently spiced finish. This nostalgic flavour is truly a British classic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, aniseed in your alcohol is not for everyone.
No, it's definitely a bit of an acquired taste. I mean, I
Yeah.
recently got into stuff like using fennel seeds in my cooking, particularly for like orzo and spaghetti. But I know for like a lot of people, it's not the kind of flavour they like. I know Imogen actually, who was on the last episode that you were on.
Yeah.
She, I think she grew up in a village where like the main option for like restaurants where she lived was always just like fennel and mushroom risotto or something like that. So she kind of got sick of it.
Fair enough. It sounds like my kind of place, actually. But
yeah, you probably would enjoy it, actually.
I would love it.
Lots of nice French bread and wine as well.
Yeah, so basically this went off sale in most mainstream British supermarkets 3 or 4 years ago now. And it's amazing that we haven't actually reviewed it before, and I think that's the only reason, because the last few times I got it, we had something else to review. But I have found it in a sort of little sort of hideaway nook in a sort of food warehouse place in the centre of Southampton. So, without further ado, shall we crack this baby open?
Yeah, sure. I was going to say as well, it's just really funny that I think I even vaguely remember just before we recorded that slightly weird and out of place video of us. Me getting you to review that day-old quiche.
Yes, that was a night.
I vaguely remember you saying before we hit record on that, like you were talking about it even then.
Yeah.
And that was like back in like early 2020, around the time of the pandemic beginning. But let's review the label first.
Yes,
though.
indeed.
Simple, not the most flashy design, but I do like the way the purple and the white contrast against each other. And the logo is a bit boring, but it's simplistic and nice enough, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, I could
actually. I was going to say, sorry, I'll bump it up to a 7 because I really like the shape and the design of the bottle. It's very simplistic, but I really like something about it.
Yeah, I was going to say 7 as well, actually, possibly even a little higher, but I think I'll stick with 7 because I like the sort of old-fashioned Art Deco-like retro lettering. Very reminiscent in some ways of the sort of London Underground lettering, which has a surprising link to Sussex because the chap who invented it came from sort of East Sussex. But So I like that. It's retro, it's a bit Art Deco, it's very much got the looks of, a company that's tried to modernise as much as is possible for a company that makes this, but has still tried to stay true to their roots.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do think is that the shade of purple is perhaps a tad washed out looking.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of like tired. It does look like it needs like at least 2 different shades of purple, one that's slightly brighter than this and another one that's like a bit more pitch darker.
Maybe. I would have said a little bit of a darker shade of purple and some dark green on it to go with the full thistle aesthetic.
I don't know. I think... I don't know about that. I think if you're adding green in there, you'd have to be on a label that's also orange, because green and orange are kind of like natural contrasts, so I think that would probably work better personally. But I see what you mean, though. So let's have a quick snifter of it first to see what our first impression's like. Whoa! Oh, that's pungent.
It is at that. That is one way of describing it.
Fuck me. Jesus. Wow, yeah.
That promises a strong flavour, doesn't it?
I will say, it's a very striking nose, but I will say, if, like Phil said, if there is anyone watching this who's thinking of trying this who doesn't like aniseed, you probably will hate the nose. Yeah. It is almost all aniseed. Granted, it's got this nice sort of... almost lavendery sort of after smell that I guess is the burdock, but at the same time it's like it's very strong, and it's the aniseed part of it is super overpowering. So I'd probably say it's a good nose that I would say is probably like a 6.5 out of 10, 7 maybe. But I can imagine for some people the nose being a 0 because it is very strong.
It is, yeah. I would agree absolutely with that. Yeah, I mean, I like it. But then I'm the kind of guy who also likes kvass, and I know a lot of people don't. I like anything that has a strong smell, like that mead we reviewed, or kvass, or whatever.
Not the homemade mead.
Not the homemade mead I made.
No, the one that you made that was barely free.
That just smelled of yeast, to be honest.
Yeast and just. I just remember like looking up at the camera when we were recording that, and your face just sank, and I was like,
yeah, I knew at that point it wasn't going to be good, but I am brewing up a nice little surprise that may or may not exceed expectations there. So you'll see what it is come October. This is not a quick brewing process like mead or beer.
So knowing you, it's going to be one of 4 things. It's going to be either sort of like alcohol brewed with fruit, alcohol brewed with honey, bread sort of crusted with cheese, or some kind of sort of like egg, sort of like flambe sort of thing.
Well, I have made eggnog in the past.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And you can make beer just by chucking sort of stale bread in, and that will work. There'll be yeast in the bread, so that will, help brew the beer.
I imagine that's how they made Foster's, considering it's so shit. But anyway, let's have a quick palate cleanser of water first.
Cheers.
And then I'm just going to drink it out of the bottle, actually. So
okay, fair enough then.
Okay, so on to the most important part of the video, which is see what this sucker tastes like. So to everyone at home, have a good weekend ahead. Cheers.
Bottoms up.
That tastes nothing like how the nose would sort of have you think.
I thought you would say that, because that has been my experience too. I very much agree.
I'd say the
reason I coughed is because the bubbles went down the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's very much like Coca-Cola in a way. In fact, original Coca-Cola would probably have tasted much like this. In that the first drink of it is sort of it's got a really strong flavour once you immediately open it, and then also the sort of bubbliness of it is really intense with the first glug, and then after that it mellows out, and it's really quite nice.
I was going to say the texture is quite bubbly and vibrant, and it is a little bit overpowering at first, but like once you sort of like take a couple of sips in and you sort of like figure out a sort of proper way of taking it down, it's very smooth.
Yeah.
It's for the uninitiated. If you're just chucking it back, it may sort of like overwhelm you a bit. So what I'd say is sort of chuck in a sort of a load of it, but then sort of what's in your mouth, I would recommend just sort of then seeping back down sort of like very slowly. So like
this is definitely a drink that you need to savour. Maybe you have it in a glass while you're having a picnic. This is not a drink that you drink to get drunk. It's not something you have on a night out.
In fact, actually, I'd really recommend doing what I did, because there's this sort of almost plummy, sort of foresty, fruity sort of undertone to it that really gets accentuated when you do that. So if you take a little bit into your mouth and sort of slowly sort of like drink it down, and then it sort of really accentuates that.
You're ever so right.
But yeah, the impression I get is that it's a classic, tastes like a classic old-fashioned, like fruity cola kind of drink with a very minor and subdued sort of aniseedy aftertaste.
Yeah.
With a sort of slightly plummy undertone. That's what I'm getting. It doesn't taste like how you'd think at all. Like, you smell it and you just think, yeah, this is just going to be pure sugar, pure aniseed. But it's actually quite a vibrant, varied mix of flavours that all combine together really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. That's why I've sort of fallen in love with it, really. It's not something you can have that you really want to have more than one bottle of at any given time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those ones where you have it before dinner, or like just have 1 or 2 bottles of it at a picnic.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the drinks you have the rest of the afternoon, stuff like more digestible stuff like vodka with lime and soda, prosecco, or like beer or something. Because
ginger ale, whatever.
Yeah, or like gin and tonic or something. Because this is very flavoursome, but in a very sort of strong way. So I can imagine, if you have too much of it, it can sit quite poorly.
Yeah, it's got a sort of nice caramelly texture to it almost.
But yeah, I think this is definitely sort of more of just a 1 or 2 at a time kind of thing. But as far as those kind of drinks go, it's right up there. And the flavour, like I said, is nothing like what you'd expect. And it's very well balanced. The texture is the main sort of weakness of of like when you drink it. But even then, that doesn't ruin it too much. And like I said, I think there are ways that you can drink it where if you take it down a bit more slowly, that's not so much of an issue.
Yeah. This is even one where you pour it into a glass, or you take a single bottle like this and you pour it into 2 glasses for 2 people, and that's enough, because you're after the initial hit of the flavour rather than the getting drunk.
You know what this would be great as? This would be great as a cocktail mixer, along with probably something like either club soda or soda water, grape juice and gin. Like, think about that. I think that would slap. If you mix this with like gin, club soda, grape juice, and maybe a little bit of like a little squeeze of like fresh lime.
Yeah,
I imagine that'd be good.
Yeah, I was thinking perhaps rum as something to mix this with.
Yeah,
2 different types of sweetness complementing each other.
Yeah, and then maybe like chuck in some like maybe make almost like a sarsaparilla out of it, like by also chucking in some like chopped up like pineapple and papaya, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe a bit more tropical. But yeah, no, this is good stuff.
You could even go extremely herbal and add mint leaves to it.
Yeah, I imagine.
Make a nice tea,
yeah, I mean,
also an option.
Yeah, if you sort of added like pins and sort of like iced tea to it with some mint leaves and frozen peach, that'd probably be quite good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. So,
okay.
So I'd say the texture is probably like a 6, but the flavour itself is like getting on for an 8.5. So I think overall, I think I'm going to rate it probably like a probably like an 8. I think it's just outside the level of being an elite level drink, but it's still in that sort of bracket of very good. So this is definitely well worth picking up. I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
and like I think even for people who don't like aniseed, you could probably still stomach a good few sips of it.
It will have that effect. I mean, obviously, this is one of my favourite drinks. Though I have to say that as I've grown older, the sweetness of it is less appealing than it once was.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, I've got to go slightly higher than that, but I would agree that this is not quite sort of up there with a sort of really nice spiced mead or a fine whiskey, or the nicest of sort of German beers or old English stouts, or like sort of Harvey's Best Bitter from Lewis or something. So I would rate this as an 8.9, sort of just close to sort of 9 or 10, but not quite there.
That's elite level, because on my numerical ranking system, 8.5 to 9 is elite.
Okay, well in that case we'll give this an 8.4. It's just outside.
Do you think?
I think it's just outside elite level.
So it's not quite elite, but it's definitely like excellent, which is 8 to 8.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for what it is really good, but it's let down by the fact that it's a bit niche and it is not something that you can sort of chug several of in a row, really.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, I think that's a good varying range of sort of like ways of saying it's good, and I definitely would recommend this. So to everyone at home, definitely pick this up if you find a food warehouse near you. But until next time, if you like this video, leave a like, share and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for me and Phil in the future for a future episode of Ted's Brew Cellar, let us know in the comments section down below. And if you want to check out any of my social medias or Phil's slightly dormant book review channel, I'll put those in the video description down below.
Or my DeviantArt account, which is a lot more active these days.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
and
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, and then until next time, have fun, stay safe with whatever you're doing, don't do anything we wouldn't do, drink responsibly, know your limits, and we'll see you guys at the bar next time on Ted's Brew Cellar. Cheers.
Cheers.